Good evening, Chicago. I'm Andy Zopp, along with my special guest co-host, Chicago Public Library Shamil Clay. And this is Chicago Newsroom 2.0.
Sufyan Sohail, Swati Staley, and Hugo Balta joined this week's Roundtable to unpack the latest developments in the month-long government shutdown, local and state pushback against ICE's continued presence in the city, and Mayor Brandon Johnson's return of money provided to his campaign by city vendors.
Xchange Chicago's Darquetta Eggleston and Omawale Kasali returned to the newsroom to give us an update on the collaborative's efforts to help Chicagoans land jobs in the tech field.
Deeply Rooted Dance Theater's artistic director, Nicole Clark Springer, joins the program to share what audiences can expect as Deeply Rooted kicks off its 30th anniversary season.
And Chicago Public Library Commissioner Chris Brown and award-winning poet and educator Jose Olivares join us to talk about one of my favorite things, books.
We've curated an incredible hour of news and information just for you.
And it all starts right now. On this week's Roundtable, we're tackling 3 headline-making stories that raise serious questions about power, accountability, and fairness in our city, state, and nation. First, federal agents have detained students at Juarez High School, staff for a city alderman, and others in a flurry of enforcement actions. In response, J.B. Pritzker has convened a task force, and the United States Supreme Court is preparing to consider the legality of deploying the National Guard in Chicago. Meanwhile, the Chicago Public School Board is weighing remote learning options amid the turmoil. Second, while tens of millions of Americans face potential suspension of Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, SNAP benefits, the White House is advancing a $300 million plan for a presidential ballroom renovation. For many, this looks less like renewal and more like let them eat cake. Third, here at home, Brandon Johnson's administration is under scrutiny as he returns campaign contributions from city vendors in the wake of vendor contract concerns. It's a story of transparency, trust, and government ethics. To help us try to make some sense of it all, I'm joined now by Roundtable regulars Sufyan Sohail, Chair, Cook County Commission on Human Rights, Swati Staley, Partner with Just Act Partners, and Hugo Balta, Executive Editor with the Fulcrum U.S. Welcome back, friends. Let's dive right in. So many places. Where do we start? To get so many places to get angry. I guess we should start with ICE, since that's sort of the new thing. I will say, just as an aside, before we get to ICE in Chicago, I saw a story about ICE in New York. I don't know if you saw this. So they went to like the garment district where a group of African immigrants always sell stuff on the street. And the people were like so offended. They're like, oh my God, they just came in and swiped up and started arresting people. I'm like, look, are you guys not watching the news? Like, welcome to Chicago, right?
Unfortunately.
It's a little unfortunate that it's not that we're comfortable with it, but we're so used to it. They were appalled. I'm like, well, welcome to our world. So students, staffers, I think the thing that amazes me about it is that they do it and then they just lie about it, right? Like the thing with Bovino, right? What do you think? I mean, I think, do they think people aren't watching the videos?
It is outrageous, it is frightening, and it is heartbreaking. This notion from the Trump administration that they were going after the worst of the worst is false. They're going to schools, they're going to places of work. So it's not about the economy, it's not about safety, it's about the status quo. It's about retaining power and turning back the clock to in America, in the United States, where being a minority was about being in your place. So what we're seeing in Chicago and across other cities, you mentioned New York, it is a farce. That bravo to Judge Sarah Ellis for being one of the few voices, because as MLK Jr. once said, we will not remember the words of our enemies, we will remember the silence of our friends.
Right.
Agreed.
So we're going to get to Judge Ellis in a minute, but you said that it's about maintain the status quo. I think it's about more than that. I think it's about really imposing authoritarian rule. What do you think, Sophia?
I think it's also about the erosion of our safe spaces.
Right.
I saw a video yesterday of a Indian grocery store out in the western suburbs where individuals are tackled by ICE agents, and it's people used to feel safe in these spaces.
Right.
Parents picking up their kids, walking down the streets. We're seeing no neighborhood is safe, and all should feel safe, right? And it's making people question if they're truly welcome and belonging in our communities and society, and that's problematic. I think it's scary. Those who are speaking out, those who are just showing up, and I think they're trying to create a country for a specific type of person, and everyone else should be put under their boots.
Right. Totally agree. And they're very, and we're going to get to Judge Ellis in a minute, but they're very much like, because there have been orders, and there's also just fundamentally the law, right?
Right.
Like, why are you attacking people who are, journalists and reporters? So, they clearly are not, but when they say about it, they're like, oh, the crowd was going crazy and threatened.
Right.
So, what's that about? Just, completely misrepresenting what happened. Like, we're not seeing it.
Right. I mean, it's this notion that if we say it often enough, it will be true. That these protesters are threatening the lives of ICE agents. That's absolutely not true, right? There are peaceful protesters that are documenting atrocities against citizens and everyone who has the right to be here. So it truly is just this fallacy that if we say it often enough, then maybe someone will believe us. And unfortunately, I do think that those who are supportive of this administration's actions in domestic cities are believing what ICE agents are saying. And it is, instances like, I know we'll get to Judge Ellis's order today, but the idea that they don't feel like they need to be held accountable. There is no accountability for their actions.
Right. That they're clearly above the law. So, but apparently Judge Ellis doesn't feel exactly the same way. So I'll talk a little bit about what happened in her courtroom.
Sure. She sat down with Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bovino and basically walked him through, I think it was about an hour, about the actions that ICE has taken, excessive actions against, as you mentioned, journalists, protesters, and people that are being detained, and really seeking accountability. This is one of the few times where we're seeing, finally, hopefully, accountability. But as Swati has said, they're speaking their truth. Mm-hmm. And it really trickles down from the Trump administration, right? We've heard Donald Trump over and over again speak lies, and it is a notion that if you say it often enough, it becomes the truth. I think what we're seeing now with Judge Ellis is accountability. A lot of the video that's coming about what's happening is coming from the public itself. Right. So that needs to continue. That pressure needs to continue to amount, because at the end of the day, the battles are being fought in the courtroom.
Right, and I think she's doing something. In addition to going over generally, she very specifically went through the order, and she was very clear. She's going to say, "I'm going to assume that you're not. I am assuming you're not violating the law intentionally."
Right.
So they have to assume that you're confused.
Right.
So we're just going to walk through and make sure you're not confused. And what she's doing, she's a lawyer. Obviously, she's a judge. She's a lawyer. Is laying the evidence. Right. Yes. She got him to admit on the record. We're not going to. These are things that are in the orders. Right. You don't get to go after journalists. You don't get to right. They have to be a threat. Let's all agree. Children in Halloween costumes not a threat. But she's laying the groundwork, and he has to come back every day, right?
Yes.
Right.
6 p.m. every day until the hearing on the preliminary injunction on November 5th, and it is a pretty incredible. Thing that happened is that really the idea behind I'm going to explain to you in no uncertain terms what is in my directive, in case you didn't understand, not making any assumptions about his willingness or unwillingness to comply with federal law and her order, but also saying that we're gonna make sure that we're gonna go through every day your compliance with that. She also required Bovino to wear a body cam and to be trained on it by Friday, which is a bit surprising that he's not already trained on the mechanics of a body camera. But
Well, he hasn't worn one.
He hasn't worn one.
So he probably doesn't know.
Right. So the ability of Judge Ellis to really say, we're going to hold you accountable to the things that I'm ordering in this courtroom, as I am entitled to do, is pretty incredible. And to Hugo's point, the idea of it was a little bit of a bright spot for sure in accountability when there does not seem to be much of that happening
Well,
right
I
now.
think she's laying the groundwork for holding him in contempt.
I agree.
But that's what I'm concerned about, right? I think we're entering a point now where we're going to see two different branches of the federal government now potentially butting heads. If he violates the order, what sort of enforcement
She
mechanism?
can hold him in contempt and he will go to jail. That's how it works.
Yeah, but who's going to enforce it?
The marshals.
And that's what I'm interested to see how that plays out. And I'm a little nervous
will not
as well.
be the first time that a member of federal law enforcement's been arrested, and so it is. Now, it will be an interesting question whether or not the marshals enforce the order, but it will be a problem for the administration, I
Yes,
think,
agreed.
if they ignore. And that's why I think she's laying the groundwork she's laying.
Yeah.
On the order, which, by the way, has been, they've agreed to extend it. So it's not like they can say, well, the order we were challenging the order because they weren't. So anyway, it will be a fight, but that I think is what she's doing. The only thing I want to say is that on accountability is that there are other judges in that building who have issued orders and restraining orders and continuing a consent decree. That the judges of the Northern District of Illinois and the Seventh Circuit have been very strong, and I think that is something for us to be pleased about. Speaking of accountability, Governor Pritzker set up a new task force. So what do we think about that?
I think it's necessary. I think it's bringing transparency and sunlight to actions that are happening in our city and across our state. I think it is the few things that we can do to really fight back against federal agents not wearing name badges, not having their faces shown, a level of enforcement that's happening by unnamed masked agents to really have that level of accountability. And so I think it's a step in the right direction. I know Mayor Lightfoot also announced that there would be that there was a platform that she was developing to make sure that we are able to
Post
report
videos, right?
Yeah, able to actually, speak truth to what's happening in the public. So in that regard, I think that we have leaders who are really fighting back that are saying we have to do something about it and embracing this collective effort that we're all responsible for what's happening and for violation of our laws. And so for us to participate in that process of holding people accountable to the laws that exist that we're all bound by.
Right, and also creating evidence, right? And to your point, empowering people, right?
Like as you mentioned, it's people on the ground who are taking videos and pictures and posting them, and no one's really taking the effort to collect them all, to have that proof of record and to even have the full narrative of the reality on the ground. And I think this is the right step, just to collect it all in one place too.
Right, totally agree. So do we think CPS should go remote?
Absolutely. I think we have to do whatever we need to do to protect children. And already we've seen, especially in the immigrant community, parents not sending their kids to school for fear of dropping them off or picking them up and having ICE agents cart them away with no concern about leaving children, some of them still buckled into their child car seats. So I think we've had the experience during COVID about remote learning with different degrees of success because of just connectivity. But I think do what's necessary to protect families and to protect children.
Yeah, we're seeing absenteeism go up so significantly in communities of color that we're not. I think this, CPS is not able to effectively educate in those schools where parents and children are afraid to show up. So if there is an alternative, I completely agree with Hugo that we need to make sure that at least we're able to advance education in the best way possible while keeping families safe.
Yeah, I hear you both, but remote learning was a devastation for our students. It really was, and it feels like to me like we're piling on, and we're separating children from the things that they need, the support of other people, of other families. I hear you, and it may be that that's the answer, but that seems to me to be a huge concession to authoritarianism, and that will also have negative consequences for the children. And so I would like for us to find a way to protect them in school.
I agree.
Which I think is what some parents are doing. A lot of the schools are doing. They have people who are out front making sure people know,
Patrols,
and walking people, other people walking people's kids to school to help. So I just feel like wrapping them in support as opposed to telling them you can't go outside just seems to me to be a little bit of a better idea. But I don't think there's a good answer either way, right?
It's an impossible choice,
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, let's, shall we talk about we have a few minutes to talk about the ballroom that's going up?
I mean, I hope it's beautiful, but joking aside, it's shocking when we're giving money to Venezuela, building a ballroom, investing in all these other things, putting so much money into ICE, and not taking care of the people who live in this country, and cutting SNAP benefits, and so many children are going to be impacted. And
16 million children receive SNAP benefits.
And how can anyone with just a mind of conscience even think that that's okay to do? And
Well,
that's
I think people don't have this is a fight, right? They're like, it's basically who's gonna call chicken first. I don't know, what do you think?
It's a fight on the backs of the most vulnerable.
Right.
Yes.
And we're talking about a president and an administration that just doesn't care. It's all about winning. And how you get to the finish line doesn't matter.
So we are almost out of time, but we got to talk about Mayor Johnson. So what's up with the campaign contributions? Did you see, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, so there are repeated instances where the Johnson administration has had to return campaign donations from city vendors. It has become a bit of a topic where it feels like it shouldn't be, because Mayor Johnson did run on a platform of accountability and transparency. I don't know that it's intentional. I don't think that there's any malice behind it. However, it does call to question, the repeated instances of accepting donations that shouldn't be accepted in the first place. When you have to issue mea culpas to backtrack and continue to return dollars that are going to your campaign, it does beg the question of who's really watching and who's really kind of managing this. It stinks because it's happening at a time where there's great leadership coming from the mayor's office on what's happening with ICE and National Guard, but it does beg the question of why does this keep happening?
Right. So what do we think? Just Hugo, a kind of an error in tracking, or is there a bigger problem?
Well, I think it says what's important for the administration and not. I think one time, okay, 2 times, 3 times, now it becomes a problem. So you either deal with it or you don't. And if you don't deal with it, then that really says a lot about his administration and what they care about, and also the people, right? Because all these instances haven't come from his administration saying, hey, mea culpa, it's because somebody pointed to it. Yeah. So I don't think the Johnson administration will take care of it on its own. It needs to be done independently. You need to overhaul it, and you need to enforce the existing laws.
Yeah, I agree. I think he needs to set the tone with his team in a way that's probably a little different. Yeah. Well, as usual, we have run out of time and covered some very tough topics. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. On the other side of the break, Shamil sits in conversation with Chicago Public Library Commissioner Chris Brown and award-winning poet Jose Olivares. Stay with us.
Hi, Hi, I'm Bianca Cotton, inviting you to tune in for a new episode of Behind the Confident Smile, where we discuss with Kiana Jones what it's like to turn your frustrations with the educational system into change. Tune in on CAN-TV Cable Channel 19 or stream online at cantv.org or on the CAN-TV Plus app. Elevated conversation and storytelling. Experience the power of community television.
In times of political turmoil and economic uncertainty, telling the stories of our city and neighborhoods is more critical than ever. At CAN-TV, we do just that. But with shrinking budgets and pressure on independent media, the future of hyper-local news is at risk. Your generous financial support ensures that we can keep shining a light on what matters most, right here in the city of Big Shoulders. Visit cantv.org and donate today. The power of community television depends on you. You, me, we are CAN-TV.
Chicago's public libraries are buildings filled with books, but they're also living, breathing spaces for connection, creativity, and community empowerment. And this year, Chicago Public Library is being celebrated for reimagining what it means to serve public good. From boosting literacy and digital access to ensuring every Chicagoan has a pathway to knowledge, discovery, and joy. Tonight, we are honored to be joined by Chicago Public Library Commissioner Chris Brown, a leader committed to innovation, equity, and expanding access to every neighborhood, ensuring libraries remain one of the city's most vital institutions. We are also thrilled to welcome poet and educator Jose Alvarez, the Chicago Public Libraries Foundation newly minted 21st Century Award honoree. Commissioner Brown, Jose, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Commissioner, I'll start with you. The library has been a part of Chicago's fabric for generations on generations, right?
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about how your vision supports learning, connection, and community in the city.
Well, I think our libraries, they support Chicagoans coming into our buildings with their own vision. And so those visions for themselves change generation after generation, and we want to figure out how do we support them. And that goes all the way back to Chicagoans advocating for branches in their neighborhoods, to kind of deposit libraries, to today. We're really committed to making sure that every Chicagoan has access. And so, you're part of our team. You're very aware that we've hit this milestone where we have launched our 81 Club, and we have a data share with Chicago Public Schools. And so now, for the first time, coming fall, new year, every Chicago Public School student will automatically have their library card through their student ID. So the vision is access, and we're taking it to a place it's never been before.
I love that. I love that. Speaking of access, Jose, you have spoken about how the library has kind of molded you as you were a young reader. Can you talk a little bit about your experience at the library? Maybe even a moment that encapsulates the time of you being at the library.
Yeah, absolutely. After the event last week, I had a conversation with my brother, Pedro, and he told me that he had forgotten just how important the library was to our family growing up. Obviously it was a place where we were able to borrow books from, and I come from a family where we couldn't afford to buy books oftentimes. So really the library was the only place that we could go to kind of access books. But more than that, it was really a total cultural center for us. We borrowed music, we borrowed CDs, we borrowed movies, we even borrowed computer games back in the days when we used to have like the old desktop computer. So more than anything, it was a place that totally grounded my family's experience and gave us access to cultural activities and cultural materials that we wouldn't have had otherwise.
I love that. I love that. And I want to kind of pivot this question to the both of you. when we think about the library, it's both a public institution and a deeply personal space. And now in this time in Chicago, we talk about the importance of belonging, right? So tell me a little bit about how the library is a place of belonging for you. Chris, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, and I think what Jose talked about is the way that belonging plays out for Chicagoans every day in our libraries, right? It's those sort of like transitional moments. It's families picking out books for story time in their own household. And they're like, when they are putting their kids to bed, I'm living through that myself right now. And to have that kind of role in their life where they're connecting with stories or connecting with resources and sort of giving everyone else like a level playing field. So they're all having this rich cultural quality of life, I think is really important. On a more, Chicago-based level, the archives we have, the records that we keep, we're so committed to making sure that we're telling our full Chicago story. So our team has put together this exhibit, Pilsen Days by Akita Suda, and it's incredibly timely as we're looking at immigration in our country and how our undocumented families are being targeted. This Suda exhibit was an exhibit by a Japanese immigrant photographer who came into the neighborhood of Pilsen, a largely Mexican immigrant community, and he really documented that story. And I think it's incredible that our library has now archived that, and we're getting to tell a story of belonging for everyone, immigrants included.
I love that. I'll come back to that in a second too. Jose, I'm going to pivot to you. Tell me a little bit about what the library is in terms of belonging to you.
Yeah, what I'll say is that when I was a young person, I had a difficult time sometimes figuring out exactly where I fit in. My parents were undocumented growing up, and Spanish was my first language, which meant that a lot of times I learned to be quiet because I didn't want to alienate or embarrass myself in front of my classmates. And the places where I was able to find myself, where I was able to learn about who I wanted to become and what I really believed in was really the library. And I think for me, especially in the era that I grew up in, I didn't always get access to stories by Mexican Americans or Latinx people. But I was lucky enough to get access to Black American writers and the stories of the Great Migration, even though they were different than my own story of migration, they also really resonated with me and helped me understand, different parts of my identity. So for me, the library was really the place where I felt like I wasn't judged, where I felt like my story was part of a larger story. And I love what Chris said about, what it means to be Chicago and what is Chicago's story. I think it took a long time for me to understand that Mexican Americans were not just a small part of Chicago's story, but that we played a major role in the development of the city. And I think I really learned that by spending time at the library.
I love that so much.
And I think Jose is saying something really important about, my mom's side of the family is Filipino, right? There's not always a Filipino-American museum or a collection of those stories. And so I think, as Jose is pointing out, oftentimes we look at narratives of diaspora or migration in other cultures that maybe we're not a part of, but it's one of the only places we can see that story.
Yeah, that's very true. Okay, Jose, I'm going back to you. Why is it important for public libraries to uplift diverse voices?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we live in a moment of time where, with all of the immigration rates that are happening, we're seeing an attempt to shrink the definition of what it means to be an American in this country, of who gets to belong in this country. And so I think uplifting diverse stories is important because I think that's one of the ways that we push back against that narrative and really reinforce our understanding that the United States is a country that belongs to all of us. It's a country that was shaped by all of us and all of our ancestors. And that we want to create a future where all of us are invited to belong and be together.
Yes. And speaking of all of us belonging and being together, Commissioner Brown, the library has been a platform for writers, for artists, for creators all across Chicago, right? From, I would say, like Gwendolyn Brooks now to Jose Olivares, like all of these great writers and artists. Tell me a little.
No pressure, Jose.
No, no pressure at all, I'm sure. Why is it important for libraries to amplify those stories, and how does that align with your mission to connect libraries to people and people to libraries?
Yeah, I think it gets back to some of our like foundational values, right? We're so committed to access. We're so committed to our First Amendment rights, to not being a place of censorship. And, what even Jose was mentioning about this kind of erasure of history or this erasure of narratives, that's something that we directly kind of combat by having a breadth of narratives and perspectives. We're incredibly proud of our Vivian Harsh collection on the South Side, where we're working with a $2 million Mellon grant to really digitize and make all of that accessible. This past year, we kind of processed 400 linear feet, almost a city block of archives. So all of that is now accessible to researchers and Chicagoans that it simply wasn't before. So it's near and dear to our values and our heart. So
tell me a little bit, let's go to the Chicago Public Library Foundation Awards. Recently, we held the awards and Jose was honored. But for those who don't know about the awards, can you tell me a little bit about it, kind of set the stage for what it is?
I think of it as our library annual rally. Like, we get all of our civic community together, we celebrate our library, the foundation raises funds that really keep us at the forefront. So, thinking of like AI programming, thinking of like teachers in the library, our U-Media spaces, all of that resourcing happens through our foundation. And it's the event where philanthropy comes together to celebrate our library and then celebrate authors like Jose, and of course, Percival Everett, one of our other winners. It was a magical night.
Absolutely, I agree. I was there, it was amazing. Jose, you won, I mentioned before, the 21st Century Award. Your speech was absolutely amazing. Congratulations to you. Tell me a little bit about how this feels to win. You're a Chicagoan, you love libraries. How does it feel to win an award like that?
Yeah, it's a dream come true. It means a lot to me because I really believe that Chicago has one of the strongest literary traditions in the country. You think about Carl Sandburg and Gwendolyn Brooks, who you already mentioned. You think about Sandra Cisneros, Erika Sanchez, Eve Ewing, Nate Marshall. The list goes on and on. So to be recognized in that tradition, to be recognized by the library, which played such a pivotal role in my development as a reader and as a writer, I still don't have the words for it. It truly is the pinnacle of my career so far, and something that I'll be proud of, as long as I write and as long as I live. So I'm overjoyed still to be able to represent the library and to be honored by the library.
So thank you so much, Jose. And again, congratulations to you. Commissioner Brown, always thank you for coming. You can watch Jose receive the 21st Century Award during a special airing of the Chicago Public Library Foundation Awards, Wednesday, November the 5th at 7 p.m. on CAN TV channels 19 and 21, or stream live on cantv.org or the CAN TV Plus app. On the other side of the break, Andy talks about jobs in tech with Xchange Chicago's Draquetta Eggleston and Amawala Castell. Stay with us.
Cable cord cutting, funding rollbacks, growing efforts to silence community voices. The stakes have never been higher for a community television station. Since 1983, CAN TV has proudly served as Chicago's home for truth, access, and accountability. From City Hall to your front door, we make sure your story is told. But to keep it local and to keep it real, we need you. Please visit cantv.org and donate today. The future of Chicago's voice is in your hands.
Technology is shaping the future of work, and Chicagoans deserve a fair shot at the careers and opportunities that the future will create. But in too many neighborhoods, access to tech pathways has been limited by cost, by geography, and by the belief that those jobs are for someone else. Xchange Chicago is working to change that, connecting residents from across the city to the training, certifications, and employer partnerships that lead directly to high-growth careers in technology. From cybersecurity and software development to data analytics and digital design, Xchange is building ladders into the industries driving our economy. And now, with the opening of its new Grand Crossing Workforce Innovation Center on the South Side, Xchange is bringing those opportunities even closer to the communities that have long been left out of Chicago's tech boom. Joining us tonight are Managing Director Jarquetta Eggleston and Vice President Omawale Cassell, here to share how Xchange Chicago is preparing talent, powering careers, and making sure the next generation of tech leaders and innovators come from every corner of this city. Hey, welcome, both of you. Appreciate it. So glad you could be here.
Thank you for having us.
What's been happening since the last time you were here? The center is close to opening, right?
Very
so
close.
Tell me a little bit about what it's going to look like and what's going to happen.
Absolutely. So first of all, we're located in the Greater Grand Crossing community and in Pockettown, which is a subsection of Greater Grand Crossing at 72nd and Ingleside. We are a 28,000 square foot facility.
Wow.
That will be the home to SDI Presence, Chicago's largest tech MBE, as well as 211, which is Chicago's newest 11, where you can call for wellness services, and a cafe. Our cafe is home to Chef Michael Bonner and CMB Catering. It will be the community front door of the building and will create healthy food options for the community. And we'll do a bit of farm to table. We have a 2-acre farm located just across the street from the building. And so we'll be able to offer the community some yummy treats.
Well, okay, now we're here to talk about tech, so who's working the farm?
We have young adults working the farm, ages 18 to 24. The Comer Education Campus has a very big urban agriculture program, and young people learn about urban ag in the classroom. And when we're lucky, if we're lucky to retain that talent, they usually transition and become farmers on our 2-acre farm.
All right. Tell me about the tech training program and the work that you're doing. And you're working with SDI Presence on that, right?
Yeah, I would say that when we think about training, what we're trying to do is really hone in on what are the trends and where are the future opportunities. And so nothing is bigger right now than data and AI, along with how do you protect that data from a cybersecurity standpoint. And then a lot of organizations are really wanting a local presence, right? And so that's where the sort of intersection between what we're doing with our partners, P33, Comer, and SCI all comes together. We're creating those roles for cyber and software development, software testing, all these sorts of different things within communities, which is really, really exciting.
And you have a real partnership with employers, right? So how does that work? So it's not just you come get trained, thank you very much, now good luck finding a job, right? It doesn't work like that.
Right, so I would say that that is one of the unique differentiators about the Xchange model, is that we are a consumer or a customer-driven model where we go out to the employers to really understand the demand that they have from a project basis as well as a role basis. And by understanding that demand and not just doing a train and sort of go off and good luck out there, we're able to get constant feedback. So typically our apprenticeships are about 12 months. That gives us an opportunity for an ongoing conversation. And so what we've started to see already is that for the initial apprentices that we've placed, some of them have been insourced to W-2 at clients, but also they're starting to expand programs with us because we're having a constant conversation. So we're learning about their new needs and other places that we can place apprentices. And so I think that ongoing conversation, that ongoing dialogue is tremendously helpful in terms of how we scale Xchange.
And Jarquetta, where do the participants in the program come from? How do they come to you? I know they're coming from all over the city, but how do they get to you?
So we have the fortune of being at the Comer Education Campus. Comer is a community anchor on the south side of Chicago. Whatever is happening on the Comer campus just gets a buzz within the community. So we have people who truly just walk up and they ask questions, and they will express interest that way. We have an intake survey on our website where people can express interest. We also have a number of trainer partners throughout Chicago and beyond. And so as we are partnering with different trainers, when people learn about Xchange and the work that we're doing on the South Side specifically, they will express interest. So some of our participants come from city colleges. They come from national trainer partners like Catalyte or Perscolas. But a great amount of them, a great number of our pipeline comes from Greater Grand Crossing and its 7 surrounding zip codes.
And if someone's interested in participating in the program, how do they sign up, or how do they find out more? Can they go to your website, or you said people just walk in and go, hey, yeah. I'm good at AI, or how does that, do you have to have, what kind of educational level do you have to have?
So there is not a hard stop on educational level. We have people who are kind of self-trained with regard to tech. The only kind of entry point is that you must be 18 or older. We have people from all walks of life who visit us on our website, xchangechicago.org, and Xchange, Xchange, and they complete our interest form. So it's a way for them to express interest, and then we make outreach from there. And again, people come from all walks of life. We have people who have a GED, those who have completed high school, have some college, all the way up to PhD level. We have people who express interest in going into tech, letting us know that they have done some self-guided studying, but haven't found a job or a real way to enter the field. And so Xchange is probably for them.
Why does it matter that you're located in Grand Crossing? Besides the fact that you're on the Comer Center, they're part of the work that they're doing there. But why else? Why does it matter that it's there, that you're there?
I mean, I think if you look at the history of Grand Crossing, it used to be a very industrial area, and a lot of that investment left over a period of multiple decades. And so what you tend to see is that there are, compared to the central business district, there's a nearly double the unemployment rate in Greater Grand Crossing. But the reality is that there is a lot of talent there, right? So when we think about what we're trying to do broadly as Xchange, is that we are solving technical problems for our clients. And so where you want to go to where you're going to have people who understand innovation, who understand creativity, who have the grit, the drive, and the determination to be successful within the tech industry. And so I think that having a 28,000 square foot facility that is almost done, and you walk in there, and I've been to I spent 20 plus years in the tech industry. And so like when you walk in this space, it's no different than what you might see at a Google or a Microsoft. And so I think when you start to have something like that anchored in a community like that, I think that people start to see themselves as being techies, and they start to see themselves as part of this workforce. And so being on the Comer campus and being proximate to an elementary school, a middle school, and a high school, and being so visible on South Chicago Avenue, a lot of people I think are going to start to say, what goes on in that building, and how do I become a part of what is in that building? And I think that the more people opt into tech, you're going to see tremendous economic development that is partnered with workforce development and community development. And so having all those things come together is really, really special.
Right. So Omawale clearly has a vision for what's happening there. How about you? What's your vision for success in 5 years?
My vision for success for Xchange Chicago in 5 years is that we will be able to help Chicago to become the next big thing in tech. We will be a place with homegrown talent where employers don't have to look to Silicon Valley for tech support. We are a place-based workforce development center that is at the nexus of tech change and innovation in Chicago. We are near the Quantum Microelectronics Park, Discover Center, the Obama campus. And so I see us as a breeding ground, a training ground for tech and the shift that is happening in the Chicagoland area especially. The last time we were here, we shared that companies in Chicago spend $16.5 billion each year on tech support. 90+% of those dollars go outside of the city of Chicago and out of the country. What success looks like is us being able to successfully reshore those dollars, where people can see Chicago as the place to tap when they need tech talent.
Wow. Well, that's you two you're a great tag team. Look at that. I love that. And we are out of time. Congratulations. I know the opening is coming up, and that's super exciting. So I'm thrilled for what you're doing and the changes that you're making and the opportunities you're creating for people on the South Side. So, and across the city. So thank you. And I look forward to you coming back and telling me about all the amazing things you're continuing to do. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
On the other side of the break, Deeply Rooted Dance Theater Artistic Director Nicole Clark-Springer is here with all the details on the troupe's 30th anniversary season. Stay with us.
I'm Wattice Gaddings, inviting you to tune in to the next edition of Sisters Talking, when the sisters and I discuss colorism amongst Black women.
Head of this department said, "Your resume looks great, you have great experience, and you certainly have the right look. I don't want to pass the light skin test. I'm a Black woman."
Join the conversation Tuesday at 7 p.m. on CAN-TV Cable Channel 19 or stream online at cantv.org. Elevated conversations and storytelling. Experience the power of community television.
I'm Curtis Tarver, inviting you to tune in to the next Brothers Talking, when the brothers and I talk about Black male sexuality, myths, shame, and liberation.
Being with my wife, intimacy doesn't equate to sex. Intimacy is being able to open up and say, I'm hurting.
Join the conversation Tuesday at 7 p.m. on CAN-TV, Cable Channel 19, or stream online at cantv.org or the CAN-TV Plus app. Elevated conversation and storytelling. Experience the power of community television.
For 3 decades, Deeply Rooted Dance Theater has been a force in Chicago's cultural life, blending modern, contemporary, and African diasporic traditions into dance that speak to our history, our healing, and our hope. This year, the company celebrates its 30th anniversary season, a milestone that honors its founder's vision while spotlighting bold new work, powerful revivals, and the next generation of artists shaped by Deeply Rooted's training and community programs. Joining us is Artistic Director Nicole Clark-Springer, the creative voice guiding the landmark season. She's here to share more about the choreography, the stories behind the movement, and how Deeply Rooted continues to nurture dancers and audiences across Chicago and beyond. Nicole, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
30 years is amazing, so congratulations to you.
Thank you so much, thank you.
For those who may not be aware, tell me a little bit about the why of Deeply Rooted.
Deeply Rooted Dance Theater was created by Kevin Iger, Jeff, and Gary Abbott in an effort to create space for bodies of color, dancers of color, to be seen, heard, and affirmed.
I love that. Your choreography blends a lot of African American as well as African traditions, as well as personal stories. So can you tell me, like, how do you choose which stories you want to tell, and what themes do you, do you choose to go with?
It's interesting. I like to say that the stories choose us as choreographers. What needs to be said, it's universal themes. It's storytelling, and it's the community seeing themselves, especially in a time where we find ourselves in politically. Deeply Rooted has always provided stories and said things that others don't. You know, we broach the topic of race, sexuality, love, joy, all the human emotions that connect us.
I love that so much. Well, of course, you guys are known for your dance performances, but you also, there's an element that is also involved with community engagement, specifically youth. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, we are very deeply rooted in the community. Okay. We have various programs for our youth, a youth ensemble. We have our emerging choreographers, emerging artists ensemble, and then we have a company apprentice and then our company members. And we like to go and provide opportunity for everyone to come, engage, tell their stories, but do it through movement. And so inside of these programs, you'll see varied ages, all generational, from going anywhere from 10 to 70. Everyone's, has an opportunity to come into the space and be seen, like I said, affirmed, and just move.
I love that. Yeah. Like deeply rooted in the community. That is such a great way to present, what you guys do. As an artistic director, how do you honor the founders' mission and core values while still looking ahead and thinking about the next chapter?
It's a delicate balance, I'll say that. I think it's not the job of stepping into this role as the first artistic director since the founding of the company. I came in as a student. Actually, I was on my way to New York, and I was teaching at Chicago State University, and a friend of mine told me, you need to come to this audition. And I just thought, well, I'll take it as a class, because I was gonna stay, in Chicago. I was ready to go and, find myself as an artist. And I remember going into the studio and being worked inside in such a way that not only challenged me physically, but mentally and spiritually. And it was like a thunderbolt. And I remember seeing this 6'7" being, his arms stretched out wide, in this studio. And I thought, I'm never leaving this company. This is it. This is home. And so for me, it's very cellular. It's not outside of myself what the mission is. I was challenged as a company member to find out who I was as a young Black woman, and how I moved through space, and that who I was outside of the studio was the same as inside, and the two couldn't be any different. So as I lead now in this position as artistic director, I find myself being the not just their their boss, but I have to facilitate that. I have to provide space for them to find their highest self, find out who they are and what they have to say, and be authentic inside of that, so that when we are on stage, the audience gets it. And then they start to wonder, well, what do I have to say? What do I need to do? How do I go back into my communities and become better people, better mothers, better daughters, better fathers, better sons? And the arts has the ability to do that. We bring that out. We heal communities through that.
The anniversary season includes classics as well as like new works. Which pieces are you most excited to share, and what do you hope your audiences take away from that?
I am really excited about all of them, but some special pieces that tend to stand out for me this season are our Church of Nations, choreographed by Kevin Jeff. We have another one, a all-female piece, Parallel Lives by Gary Abbott. And then we have a new work by our resident choreographer, Joshua L. Ishman, which is a love letter to both of the founders, called My Father's Son. And so it's an incredible choreography. It's physical, yet endearing, and I think the audience is going to absolutely love it.
Awesome. Chicago arts community has faced many challenges lately. Mm-hmm. What does it mean to create dance in this moment? I think you kind of alluded to how art can heal. Mm-hmm. Speak to that.
I think it's imperative for artists to have a voice in this time, especially when it's being erased, the voice of the Black artist especially. I think that providing space, and art has always provided space for individuals to come together and tell their stories, unite through, again, all of the human emotions that we tend to feel. It also empowers us. It forces us to tell the truth. I believe that artists are the truth bearers, and you will be able to tell what's happened throughout time by the art that's produced. And so it's a wonderful time for the artists if they take advantage of it.
Mm-hmm. I love that. What would you like viewers to know about Deeply Rooted that they may not already know?
I think that I would like the audience to know that we are still here. We are resilient. The theme for the 30th anniversary is love, joy, and resistance. And so with that, we are going to continue to love ourselves, love our community, love dance, do it joyfully, and then understand that that requires us to be resilient and resist against all odds and push forward for another 30 years.
Okay. Now, how can people learn a little bit more about the 30th season? Where can they get some tickets?
You can get tickets from deeplyrooteddancetheater.org.
Now, Nicole, this is your first year that you guys are offering a subscription series,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more about that.
I'm really excited about this. This is to commemorate the 30th anniversary. We've decided to have touch point performances at all of the theaters that we've been in the Chicagoland area. So we're starting at the Reva and David Logan Center, November 7th and 8th. And then we're doing a collaboration with Chicago Sinfonetta at the Harris Theater. That will take place March 7th. And then we're rounding everything up at the Historic Auditorium Theater May 30th. So you can get your subscription package and meet us at all three of those places. We'll be right there, ready to perform and be beautiful on stage.
Okay, we got it. So you've just completed 30 years, or we're in the 30 year. You have a vision, I'm sure, for the next 30 years. So I want to dig into that. Tell me about your vision for the next 30 years.
Well, I don't know about the next 30, but my vision for Deeply Rooted Dance Theater is that it continues to hold space for those who want to tap into their genius, and that the mission that we have as a company is not just local, but national and international as well.
Nicole, thank you so much for joining us, and congratulations again on your 30th anniversary season. Andy?
That's our time for this week. Thank you to all our guests, and to you, Shamil, for stepping in as this week's guest co-host.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to join you and support CAN-TV's commitment to amplifying local voices and diverse perspectives that make Chicago one of the greatest cities in the world.
And thank you, Chicago, for making space for CAN-TV and Chicago Newsroom in your day. We're back next week. Until then, be well and well informed.